Remember when two teenagers went on a date and accidentally launched the longest murder investigation in American history? January 2nd, 1956, Great Falls, Montana. Lloyd Dwayne Bogle, 18, picks up his girlfriend Patricia Patty Kalitsky, 16, for what should have been another boring Tuesday night at Pete's Drive-In. You know, burgers, fries, maybe some awkward hand-holding in his car. Standard 1950s romance stuff. But here's the thing about small-town Montana in the winter. When you're young and in love, you find creative ways to stay warm. And lovers' lanes? Well, they existed long before Tinder made everything complicated. Lloyd was your typical all-American teenager, probably spent more time fixing his hair than his car. Patty was the kind of girl who made other girls jealous and boys stupid. Together, they were Great Falls' version of a power couple, if power couples drove around in beat-up sedans and shared milkshakes. So there they are, January 2nd, sharing fries and planning their future like every young couple who thinks they've got forever figured out. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, just everything. The next morning, 3 local boys are out for a walk near the Sun River, because apparently that's what kids did for fun before Xbox. They're probably throwing rocks, complaining about homework, doing normal kid stuff. Then they stumble across Lloyd's car and Lloyd's body, shot in the head, hands tied behind his back with his own belt. Because nothing says premeditated murder like using the victim's accessories as restraints. The killer was either extremely practical or had a twisted sense of irony. But wait, where's Patty? The boys probably stood there for a solid 10 minutes trying to process what they were seeing. I mean, you're expecting to find maybe some cool rocks or a dead fish, not your first homicide scene. Talk about trauma that'll require decades of therapy. The location, what locals called Lover's Lane. Now it's Wadsworth Park, where families have picnics and kids play on swings, completely unaware they're frolicking over a former crime scene. Progress, right? But the story gets darker. The next day, because apparently the universe has a sixth sense of timing, a county road worker discovers Patty's body miles away on Vineyard Road, shot in the head, just like Lloyd. But she'd also been sexually assaulted. Now we've got a double homicide with sexual assault in 1956 Montana, where the most advanced forensic technology was probably a magnifying glass and a really good hunch. The Cascade County Sheriff's Office immediately launched an investigation that would make modern detectives weep with frustration. No DNA testing, no digital databases, no CSI-style montages with dramatic music, just good old-fashioned detective work, which, let's be honest, was about as reliable as a weather forecast. They had suspects. Oh, they had plenty of suspects. Because in a small town, everyone's suspicious of everyone else, and a double murder gives people permission to air every petty grievance they've been harboring since elementary school. But here's where it gets really interesting. And by interesting, I mean absolutely maddening for anyone who likes their murders solved within a reasonable time frame. Years passed. Decades, actually. The case file grew thicker than a phone book. Suspects came and went like fashion trends. Some died of old age before they could be properly eliminated. Others moved away, taking their secrets with them. The sheriff's office never gave up, though. They kept plugging away like that friend who still thinks they'll make it as a musician at age 45. Admirable, absolutely. Realistic? Well, time would tell. In 1989, 33 years later, they got creative. Someone had the bright idea to dig bullets out of a cottonwood tree at the crime scene. Because apparently, trees make excellent evidence lockers if you're willing to wait a few decades. Then, in 2001, they decided to test sperm cells that had been sitting in storage since Patty's autopsy, 45 years later. I've had leftovers go bad in less time than that evidence sat waiting for its moment to shine. But here's the kicker. No CODIS hits. For those of you who don't speak forensic science, that's basically like getting a busy signal when calling for backup. The technology existed, but their killer wasn't playing by the rules. Meanwhile, DNA testing helped eliminate suspects faster than a reality TV show eliminates contestants, including, and this is where it gets really weird, James Whitey Bulger. Yes, that Whitey Bulger, the notorious crime boss who apparently had enough free time between running Boston's underworld to maybe murder teenagers in Montana. Spoiler alert, it wasn't him. What do you think kept this case alive for so long? Drop your theories in the comments. Was it determination, stubbornness, or just really good filing systems? But then, something magical happened. Well, not magical, scientific, but in 2021, it might as well have been magic. Forensic Genealogy entered the chat. You know that DNA testing kit your weird aunt gave you for Christmas? The one that tells you you're 2% Neanderthal and 98% disappointment to your ancestors? Same technology, different application. Investigators took DNA evidence that had been sitting on a microscope slide since 1956. Yes, 1956, and ran it through genealogical databases. Because nothing says cold case breakthrough like using the same technology that tells people they're related to Charlemagne. And finally, they got their man. Kenneth Gould. Never heard of him? Neither had most people. He wasn't some notorious criminal mastermind. He wasn't a serial killer with a catchy nickname. He was just some guy who thought he could murder 2 teenagers and disappear into the Montana winter like a ghost. But here's the thing about DNA. It doesn't care about your anonymity preferences. Gould had died in 2007 in Oregon County, Missouri, probably thinking he'd taken his secret to the grave. Plot twist: graves don't actually keep secrets very well when science gets involved. His surviving family members, bless their cooperative hearts, provided DNA samples to confirm the match. Imagine getting that phone call. Hi, we think your deceased relative might have committed a double murder 65 years ago. Mind spitting in a cup for us? And just like that, the longest-running murder mystery in American history had its ending. 65 years after Lloyd and Patty went on their last date, justice finally showed up fashionably late to the party. This case officially became the oldest cold case in the country solved through forensic genealogy, the same technology that identified California's Golden State Killer. Because apparently, 2021 was the year DNA decided to start settling old scores. The families finally got closure. The sheriff's office finally got to close a file that had been haunting their department since Eisenhower was president. And somewhere, Lloyd and Patty finally got the justice they'd been waiting for since Love Me Tender was topping the charts. But here's what really gets me. Kenneth Gould lived for 51 years after the murders. Half a century of freedom, while 2 families wondered what happened to their children. He probably went to barbecues, celebrated birthdays, complained about gas prices, and watched the moon landing, all while carrying the secret of what he'd done to 2 innocent kids. Then science came knocking. The case generated national media attention when it was first solved, just like it had in 1956. Because some stories are so compelling, so frustrating, and so ultimately satisfying that they capture imaginations across generations. So the next time someone tells you cold cases never get solved, remember Lloyd and Patty. Remember that sometimes justice moves at the speed of technology, not the speed of desire. And remember that DNA has a really, really long memory. What's your take? Do you think more 65-year-old cases are about to get cracked? Or was this just a perfect storm of preserved evidence and advancing technology? Let me know in the comments. After all, Kenneth Gould thought he was in the clear. Turns out, he was just on borrowed time.